Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and our latest batch of listener questions. On this episode, we're picking the best Pep Guardiola 11. We're asking what academy players make. And we're digging into the greatest newly promoted seasons. Let's get to it. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, Taylor Rockwell's here. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. Excited to be here. Excited to answer lots of very good questions that made me think different thoughts.
Different thoughts, eh? Mm-hmm. Think different, like Apple back in the day. I like it.
Yes, before it became think like everybody else but charge more for it. Yes.
Okay. Be like that. Graham Ruthven, hello.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. How are you? Have you got the feeling back in your leg after the fire ant attack of earlier this week? Have you recovered?
I did. Thank you for your concern, Graham. Yes, my ankle is nearly back to regular size. Listener, don't mess with fire ants because they can make you have very bad allergic reactions. Not fun. But yeah, they're still lurking somewhere outside my house. I'm a bit worried about that.
Is that how you were messing with them?
Well, we said earlier in the week, I think on the Patreon, Taylor, that he was just too polite, too British, and put his lather right in there. Yeah, he should have.
Yeah.
We're using ladder as a euphemism, right? I just want to be clear on that. All right, cool.
Yeah, ladder.
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan.
Don't mess. Joe Lowery, hello. How are you?
I'm good. I was good. I was maybe better before the euphemism mentioned got tossed in there. Taylor, now you've also got me thinking about planned obsolescence, and now I'm just angry. I'm just angry at Apple, angry at life, angry at everything. I'm not happy.
Fair.
Yeah.
Maybe
it comes for us all at some
use
time,
profits for making a better product instead of dividend payments.
Nah.
No? Too deep in the weeds on Apple right away? All right, let's talk Pep Guardiola, shall we?
A little bit. Just hope they're not a sponsor on this show because at least 25% of this show loves them dearly. Possibly 50, possibly 75. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is where you'll get our bonus content, by the way. Bonus episodes, including, bonus listener questions. There's one from Buonos. No, it's not from one from Buonos. It's from Austin Reed, from our Discord.
Even
His
better.
question is going on the... I think I just read bonus wrong there, to be honest. The question's from Austin Reed. It says, who is on your poop house Mount Rushmore? If you'd like to know who is on our poop house Mount Rushmore, Austin Reed's question, bonus question, then join us on our bonus feed, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, and join us in our Discord as well. Good stuff, Ryan. Let's get to our listener questions for this episode, including this one from Discord Stu, who says, who is your starting 11 of prime players from Pep's tenure at Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Manchester City, assuming this is when Pep is coaching them? Taylor, is it just 2011 Barcelona and we leave it there?
I tried to blend it a little bit. I think you could make that argument. It is insane, the players that he has managed with those three different clubs. I think in the end I went for 3 Bayern, 3 City, and then the rest were Barcelona.
Wow. I have 0 City in my 11.
All right.
I've got 3 City.
There you go.
Wow.
I wonder if they will be the same ones. All right. Do we want to go through position by position, or do you want to just
let's do that. Let's do that.
Sure.
Okay.
Who keeps?
Goalkeeper, Manuel Neuer. Done.
Same.
That is the rational choice, but I've gone for Ederson just for funsies. More fun. I don't know. Well, actually, is he more fun? Manuel Neuer likes to do Manuel Neuer
fun,
things.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like winning headers 40 yards from his own goal and taking throw-ins. It's pretty fun.
This is where my own logic is going to fall down, because I think last week I called Manuel Neuer the greatest goalkeeper of all time.
100%.
So that is 100% the rational choice. But I don't know, Manuel Neuer, just every time I watch him, it's particularly if I was his coach, I think would give me a heart attack. Whereas Ederson, I just love how he can ping passes into the centre of the pitch. So Neuer is probably the consensus answer, but an honourable mention for Ederson, for Eddie.
Fine.
Strong argument out of the gates, Graham.
Yeah. Okay, Graham, let's see who got in your centre-back position.
Wait, do we have Joe's goalkeeper?
I went with Neuer as well.
Okay.
We do.
Okay, so Joe is correct.
Good.
Note it down.
Centre-backs. I've gone for 2 Barca centre-backs. I've gone for Puyol and Piqué, one of the best centre-back partnerships of all time.
Yeah, Graham, I had the same thought. Piqué with his distribution, Puyol with a little bit more of his defensive grit and communication. 2 of 100% the greatest center backs that I've ever played this sport. There are some other tempting picks here, but I was not so tempted that I moved away from the Barca duo.
Okay.
That's fair. I went Gerard Piqué, and I went Ruben Dias, actually, a player that I think has been pretty critical for Manchester City for like the entirety of his time there, and I think has been a reliable performer for Pep. And I think it's just a very good center back. Puyol is a great shout. I never trusted the hair, so I'll go.
I thought about Ruben
Here's
Dias.
part of it.
To me, Dias feels like just a budget Carlos Puyol. I mean, maybe not budget because he was almost certainly more expensive, but two players that generally do similar things. And Puyol, maybe it's just because that Barca team has a little bit of extra nostalgia to it for me, but it seems like they're similar enough, and Puyol maybe did it at a higher level. But Dias, again, there are many amazing players. There are good candidates for all these positions. I couldn't break up the Barca partner.
Yeah, there's not going to be any bad players right here that we put forward, but I would agree with Joe. Like, I just think Puyol makes the list of some of the best centre backs of all time, whereas maybe Ruben Dias maybe isn't quite at that level, but obviously he's outstanding. So
yeah, Puyol is surprisingly short and slight. I played soccer with him in Bogota, Colombia, many years ago. Don't ask why.
And now I want to ask why.
Same.
Fine. I did a thing with Heineken in the Champions League years ago where we went to different places where the Champions League very much isn't, including Jamaica, Bogota, Egypt, to talk to legends.
Wow, that is some way to expense a vacation.
I played Pictionary with Ruud van Nistelrooy in Kingston, Jamaica. That was a sentence I didn't expect
That was
to be
not
on my
on my
resume.
Cluedo board.
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds
and
fun.
a bit of five-a-side with Carlos Puyol, who, as I said, lovely. Not a lot of
played
English.
Pictionary with Ruud van Nistelrooy in Jamaica. That is a weird game of Clue, if ever I've heard one.
I don't think that sentence has ever been said out loud before, actually. Like that combination of words,
Yeah, other than when Ryan has told that story before, I'm guessing.
Well,
He was very good at it. Like if he put like a Mercedes logo on the board, like, oh, Benz, nice. Okay, I can see where you're going with that. Benzema.
No, there we go.
Yeah. All right. Joe, fullbacks.
My fullbacks. I've gone at right back Dani Alves to continue the Barcelona theme of my back line. The left back, it could 100% be Jordi Alba, to be very clear. Or you could go with another name that's quite similar and toss an extra A in and go with David Alaba, who I've gone for. They're just very different players, and I suppose this is a different strokes for different folks situation. Alba much more of an overlapping presence. Alaba better as a center back or pinching into midfield, not going to quite make the same number of overlapping runs. Maybe more of an early crosser. I've always just been a sucker for David Alaba with his positional versatility, watching him dominate in central midfield for Austria. So much fun. So I did go with the Bayern man in here, but again, you could sway me otherwise.
Okay. Taylor?
David Alaba for me as your left back. He was just like electric when breaking through, and he was one of those players that, to Joe's point, you'd then see play in the center midfield for Austria, but would be a left winger for Bayern or a left back, and then obviously now a center back. And Philipp Lahm was my right back. There are many other options, many of them having played for Barcelona, but Philipp Lahm is an institution and a legend, and I think was also critical for Pep's success with Bayern. So Lahm for me.
Very good. Graham?
I went for Alaba and Alves at right back. Lam was on my list as well, but I thought if I was going with Alaba and he was kind of doing the push into central midfield thing, having Lam doing that from the right side as well wouldn't really work, so I needed a vertical option on the right side. I know Alaba and Lam played in the same Bayern team, but Lam was actually an out-and-out central midfielder in that team. He wasn't playing right back, so that's why it worked, but in the way that I've constructed my back line, didn't think that would work, so Alaba and Alves.
I appreciate that Graham thought about tactics for this. I thought about zero tactics for this, and stand by it.
There you go.
That's what I normally do.
It's very un-Pep-like, Taylor. Taylor, I'm assuming a 4-3-3. Would you like to give your midfield three?
It feels like sacrilege to break up that midfield three.
Yes, it does.
Barcelona
So don't do it.
And
Busquets, Iniesta, and
No,
Xavi.
guys.
And yet I'm going to do it. It's Rodri. I think he's too critical. I'm going Rodri, baby. Rodri in there. Because here's, I guess, where I did think of tactics a little bit. I think of the way Pep has evolved as a coach. And it's been away from tiki-taka. It's been away from killing with possession, which is when a player like Busquets truly helps you, to having somebody who can actually do defensive work and can actually be kind of connective tissue and doing defensive work, but then also winning the ball and then also playing forward and kind of triggering attacks. And I think that is Rodri. I think that is kind of like the final form of Pep so far of that role in midfield. But then Iniesta and Xavi are just too incredible and too ridiculously good, and I think you have to have them in there. So I went for 2 of the 3, even if I think my co-host will be furious with me.
I'm so angry. I think Rodri is amazing. Like, Rodri is one of the best defensive midfielders of all time.
Cool. We agree. Let's keep it moving.
It just so happens that Sergio Busquets is probably the best defensive midfielder of all time. I think, Taylor, my suspicion here, maybe I'm wrong, my suspicion is that Inter Miami Sergio Busquets has tainted your view of Sergio Busquets, the player, just slightly, maybe subconsciously. I'm trying to peer into the depths of your soul here, because Busquets now is incapable of moving laterally. That wasn't always the case, right? Maybe he's not quite a Rodri-level closer down of the ball. That was good English, I'm sure of it. But he has the frame and the defensive timing that when he could still move side to side and accelerate slightly, he was like something of an asset in those counter-pressing moments for Barcelona. And I think he's maybe the greatest passer of the ball from deep in midfield that we've ever seen before. I just can't get rid of him. I've got that Barcelona trio in my midfield.
Maybe it's the Inter Miami thing. I truly think a lot of it is because, like, my understanding of Busquets, which is not informed by being a Barcelona supporter, so like I could be wrong here, is that he is more so like what Pep was as that defensive midfield role, which was like not the greatest athlete, not the fastest guy, not the rangiest guy, but capable of like recovering the ball and then facilitating attacking play. And so I guess I just, in the end, like Busquets, I think of the pausa, I think of all the little moments where he can possess and just kind of open up defenses. But I think we've seen how critical Rodri is for Manchester City and for Pep. So that's just where I gave him the edge. But it could be either one.
Well, let's hope this team doesn't have to play more than one game in a week, Taylor, because then he might be in trouble. Graham, your 3?
So I've gone for Busquets, I've gone for Xavi, and I've gone for Kevin De Bruyne as my midfield 3.
Why are you doing this?
Oh, we'll see. We'll see why I'm doing this.
Oh,
all right. Well, let's see your front 3 then, Graham.
Okay.
Left wing, Andres Iniesta.
Yeah.
So I've still got the 3 on the pitch. I'm bringing in Kevin De Bruyne because he's Kevin De Bruyne, man, and I just feel like box midfield. Iniesta shaded out left anyway,
This is a cheat. This is a
I
cheat
want all
answer.
4. Why is it a cheat? He literally played there for Barcelona for a whole bunch on the left side. So I'm having Andre Iniesta on the left side. I think everyone's going to have the same player on the right side, Messi, and then my centre forward, which I actually did.
I had João Cancelo. I guess I played him out.
So
of
who's
position.
that?
That's
Taylor?
on me. That's on
Did
me.
you mean JWoww? JWoww?
Who was that? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, JWoww.
João
Yeah.
Cancelo. Yes.
Vampire Man. Got it.
Centre forward, I gave some thought to because there are some good options, but I just couldn't look past Erling Haaland. The other options being Lewandowski and Samuel Eto'o. I think people sleep on how good he was, and I know Pep ends up getting rid of him after his first season and bring in Zlatan, but he's gone public and saying that was a mistake. He wishes he'd never got rid of Eto'o. So Lewandowski and Eto'o with honourable mentions, but I have to give it to the goalbot as my number 9.
Okay, very well. Joe, your front 3?
I have Messi on the right. I have Bobby Levs through the middle. Robert Lewandowski. I think he is one of the best strikers ever, and I went with his body of work over Erling Haaland's. Haaland is more talented in his way. I think listeners are going to know what I mean by that. Lewandowski is amazing at everything, and so I went with Lewandowski.
Not dancing.
Not okay. Great point,
thinks
Taylor.
it is.
TikTok, we should shut that down for Robert Lewandowski. We're going to tell him that it's still shut down. And then I went with Thierry Henry off the left side. I am not 100% married to that, but basically the main difference, Graham, between your midfield and forward group and mine is that effectively, outside of the striker spot, you've gone for De Bruyne over Henry. In a vacuum, if I ask you that question right now, Graham, which is the greater player between those two? Because I don't know. I don't have the full Henry viewing experience.
So this is where I'm maybe reading into the question a little bit too much. This is Pep's Henry, right, rather than Arsenal Henry.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Pep's Henry was a good player, but Pep's De Bruyne was better than Pep's Henry. Like Henry is in the latter stage of his career by the time he's at Barcelona.
Sure, it starts the Champions League final.
Great player, exceptional player, but Kevin De Bruyne. We're talking about his absolute peak years as arguably the best midfielder in the Premier League is under Pep Guardiola. So
and all it takes is playing a central midfielder out wide. Anyway, I'm going to continue to shade Graham for that one. Yes, I had a very similar front 3. I did go with Messi on the right, very controversial. I did go with Thierry Henry on the left, and you're right, Graham. Like you are totally right that. It is like Thierry Henry when he is basically allowed to leave Arsenal because they're like, you've earned it. You can win some silverware. On you go. And he does. But I think anytime you can throw Thierry Henry into a team, I'm going to do it. And then I do have Erling Haaland as the center forward. Because, Lewandowski probably the better like pure finisher and has maybe arguably had the more successful career.
Oh,
if not
yeah.
inarguably, yeah. But Erling Haaland is just a monster and a physical specimen, and makes Graham say turns of phrases that are hilarious. So Erling Haaland for me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Haaland is we're putting him in a functional team here, right? Like, it's, part of the issue with Erling Haaland is when you don't have players who can compensate for the flaws in his game, then his own flaws as a player are exposed. In this team, in theory anyway, not going to be exposed because he's going to have some of the best players of all time doing all that work for him. So he's going to get like 50, 60 goals in this team. That's kind of why I went for him over Lewandowski, who I think is a better soccer player than Erling Haaland. But yeah, I still went for Haaland.
There you go. All right, Discord Stu, thank you very much for your question. Not as much consensus as we might have thought over Pep's all-time coached 11. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking about Luka Modric and players playing in their autumn years. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our listener questions. Baby Giraffe, has been in touch with this one. You all recently discussed Luka Modric being good for Milan at 40 years old. Which other outfield players, surprised you for how good they are at an advanced age? That's from Baby Giraffe. Very cute indeed. There's a few, Graham, who I would highlight. Ryan Giggs playing into his 40s in the Premier League, I think, is notable. Other things obviously not notable about that gentleman. Zlatan playing at the caliber of play that he did in his advanced years. The one I'm going to point to, though, is, of course, and Joe knows all about this guy, Sir Stanley Matthews.
Oh, yeah.
Of
legendary
Blackpool fame?
Blackpool and Stoke, yeah. So that was the two teams.
Two giants of English football.
Well, do you know the other team? The third team he played for was Toronto FC. There's a fun
there we
fact
go.
for you. So Stanley Matthews, he was the first ever player inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame. He's the oldest player to play in the English top division at 50 years old and 5 days. 50 he was. And the oldest to represent England as well. He was 42 and 104 days. So
What?
wow.
So,
yeah, he was quite old. Yeah, not bad, right?
How did Ryan? Do you know more about that? Like, can you tell me more of that story? How on earth did he get an England cap at 42?
I mean, it was like the 50s, right? Or whatever.
It was a long time ago.
A different age.
Yeah, it was pre 1960s. He ate a very hearty breakfast every day, Joe. I'm not sure what else we can say about that.
Baked beans and Guinness, I think. It was that kind of age.
Exactly that. Yeah, he had a healthy Guinness and cigarettes breakfast, as his doctor advised, every morning.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Graham, your picks.
I didn't have Stanley Matthews, although I am familiar with his tale. I've kind of gone for players that we might remember, other than guys from the 50s. So, Ryan, I thought you were going to mention Toni Kroos, whose final season before he retired, I thought was the best of his career. That was the best for Real Madrid anyway. I think he has his book ended by the Euros, right, which maybe wasn't that outstanding. But for Real Madrid, that final season was exceptional, and how much Real Madrid have missed him these last two seasons, I think, is a sign of how good he was. Another sort of controlling midfielder, I thought the best version of Paul Scholes was the version that we got after he comes back from retirement. He retires for a couple of months, has a 2-month holiday, and then comes back from Manchester United, and that's when he becomes... I mean, it's already started before he retires, but at that point, he is like a deep-line playmaker, and he would just sit in the centre circle and dictate play and spray passes around, and he basically did the sort of Xavi role for Manchester United, and he was genuinely one of my favourite players when he played that role. And one other nomination that I will put forward, and then I'll pass the mic. Another Manchester United nomination, actually. I was a huge fan of Edinson Cavani latterly in his career. When actually I wasn't overly convinced about him when he was at PSG, when he was kind of in his quote-unquote peak years. I think people really underestimate the impact of taking him out of Solskjaer's Man United team for a player, because he's an excellent individual presser. Like, even in his mid-30s, he was brilliant at that, and he was replaced by a player who didn't want to do that at all. So I think that was part of the reason that Manchester United team fell apart. But some of the finishes Cavani, I remember talking about them on this show, some of the finishes that he produced during that period at Manchester United were just absolutely incredible. So yeah, he was someone that I thought was excellent in the latter stages of his career.
Very good. Taylor, I was going to add Cristiano Ronaldo to the mix, but I don't think I'm actually surprised about how good he is in his advanced age, because it seemed like that was coming.
Yeah, I had a couple of those where it's like if the category is outfield player that surprised you and then advanced age, because like 35, I don't think that really is in that category. But then when you look at like the surprised aspect, I think Ronaldo, no one is surprised given that he eats like steamed chicken and sleeps in a hyperbaric
Steamed
chamber and exists in a different world than I will ever experience. And I kind of think the same of Francesco Totti, who obviously plays until I think he's 41, maybe, in his final season with Roma. But that felt like a guy who was going to play until he could not anymore, and it did not make sense. So I did not have them on the list. I did have Zlatan, who I believe is the oldest goal scorer in Serie A history at the age of 41. And then there's two more that I think are more surprising in different ways. The first is an oldie but a goodie. It's Roger Mila. I believe he is still the oldest ever outfield player in World Cup history. There have been two older goalkeepers, but I think he is still the oldest outfield player at 42. He was 42 years old at the 1994 World Cup. He scores a goal against Russia, so he is also definitely the oldest ever World Cup scorer. And the previous record holder for that was Roger Mila when he scored in 1990. So a double champion in that way, but an amazing player.
Taylor, he was famous very much for Cameroonian striker. They upset his goal upset Argentina in the start of the tournament, right? That was him.
Yes, they were. I think for the longest time, the African team that had gone the furthest in a World Cup, and maybe Morocco has since bettered that one. But my final nominee, it's a guy who, when he makes his move to Turkey in 2017, I thought, we've seen the last of him, and he does play one season for Beşiktaş from 2017 to 2018, and then he retired last year. Does anyone know who I'm going towards?
Muslera? No?
Pep, the Portuguese center back. I thought for sure when he leaves Real Madrid, given that his game was so much, in my mind, about physicality and scrap, I thought you go to Turkey, you play that one season, you're probably kind of on your way out. Instead, 6 more seasons for Benfica, oldest ever player at the Euros for Portugal, continues to play for club and country, and be a really strong performer for them, and it feels like became more of a veteran, less of a hothead. More on that later.
Yeah, more on that later on our bonus feed, I imagine, and on our Mount Rushmore, Poop House Mount Rushmore. Joe, your picks.
Yeah, I've got a couple of, or at least one that's been said already. Zlatan absolutely bears mentioning here. Although, again, was I that surprised that Zlatan continued to be as good as he is? I don't know. So maybe one that has surprised me slightly is Olivier Giroud, how gracefully he has aged, where he was never that guy, right? He was never an absolute superstar in the way that Zlatan was, but he was a very good player, and he has continued to be quite productive even now at age 38. He's scoring goals with Lille. I think he has 2 goals in Liga, goals, if you will, in Liga so far this year. He was rubbish with LAFC, obviously, but that he's gone back to a higher level and still been able to perform is impressive to me. I have 2 other noms. Henrik Mkhitaryan, so gracefully transitioning into a deeper midfielder with Inter. 36 years old now. That has surprised me a little bit, that he has managed to sustain his peak for as long as he has, adjusting to a different position. More on that later. He's the real deal still for Inter. I really, really enjoy watching him. And then one other wild card, just because I've got a soft spot for him. Iago Aspas has aged very gracefully. Nailed it with Celta Vigo in La Liga. 10 goals and 5 assists last year at age 36. All of these nominations that we've tossed out sort of had me thinking about where these players fit tactically in their teams. And I think I've come up with 3 outfield buckets of players that if you're looking for someone who might be able to succeed at an advanced age at a high level, right? Let's assume they're not dropping down 3 levels, because then you can sustain your peak for a lot longer. But at a high level, I think if you're in one of these 3 buckets, you've got a good chance to succeed at an advanced age. The first one is the Giroud, Zlatan, big body striker category, where your game was predicated on size and strength and technical ability. You were never that mobile to begin with, so the athletic decline isn't all that jarring. I think that's one category. We see that clearly. The second category is sort of the Iago Aspas category. Maybe you could throw Griezmann in here, where he's still been very, very good at, I think, 34 now. Is the second forward / half space attackery types, the playmakers, but they're not always having to go and dribble 1v1 out wide because you lose your step in the athleticism there. I think you see a lot of players sustain success in those kinds of positions. And then the last one is the Kroos category, or the Modric category, or the Mkhitaryan category. It's the deep lying midfielders bunch, where if you can sustain your technical ability, which these guys do, and you have the right structure around you, and maybe you age somewhat gracefully when it comes to your athleticism, you can still be very, very good deep in midfield for a long time. Modric is probably the best modern example of that, but I think a lot of guys fit into that bucket too.
Very good. All right. I'll also add in a shout for Stefan El Shawari, by the way, who's been playing since 1996 but is still 32 years old. He's spent the space-time continuum. I don't understand how he's done
Good
that.
for him.
The Italian Jesse Lingard, I think we've called him on this show before. One final nomination for Santi Cazorla in terms of surprising players. He, I'm sure you guys remember this, I was just Googling it. It was in 2016 when he had an injury so bad that he was basically told that he could lose his leg. He had gangrene eating his leg. And at that point, I think everyone thought, oh, well, that's the end of his career. He's still playing in La Liga for Real Oviedo this season. He's played nearly 200 minutes in La Liga this season, so that's certainly a surprising one. He's 40 years old now.
Nice. I have a question inspired by the Stanley Matthews shout. Harry Kane turns 33 this coming July. How old do we think he is when he gets his last England cap? Because he feels like one whose game isn't necessarily predicated on speed and being fleet of foot. I feel like a lot of what makes him a very special striker will continue to make him a very special striker for a good long while. He does feel like one who I wouldn't be surprised if he's making caps for England into his mid-late 30s.
Yeah, 38. I wouldn't put it past him still getting caps at that age. Yeah,
I think most likely he'll be 34 because once you win it and get the knighthood, where do you go from there?
Win it and get a double knighthood.
Sir. Oh, I like that. Sir squared. Very good.
Sir squared.
Baby Giraffe, thank you very much indeed for your question. Let's go to Bri Guy, who dropped this one in our Discord. Liverpool's Rio Namuha has just signed his first professional contract, but he already has 5 appearances and a goal at senior level. What do academy players make when they play for the senior team but are not in a professional contract yet? Hey, Graham, Google tells me that Rio had something of a pay rise, a 360% pay rise, in fact, according to some outlets. Have you got any numbers here, or shall I lay them down?
No, on you go. Give us your research.
On I go. So apparently his contract is now worth £52,000 a year, which is the maximum level for a first-year pro at Liverpool by their own standards. He can get more through bonuses. The academy, the School of Excellence, or the scholar's salary that he was getting before that was £14,400, which feels less than minimum wage. I'll have to run the numbers there.
So when you say he's getting a maximum this year of 52,000, that's a Liverpool imposed thing, right? Because that's not a national thing. Because while
that's
you
their
are
pay structure,
while you are a scholar, it's exactly the same as I don't know how it works in the US, but in the UK, when you turn 16, a bunch of my friends left school to become carpenters or whatever, and they become apprentices. They have apprenticeships, and so the pay at that age doing that job is £165 a week. And that's the same for a footballer on a scholarship. They'll get paid the same, which probably equates to £14,000 a year, which is what you were saying about Gilmore, Ryan. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, you can sign a professional contract from 16, which, as I say, that's the age you can start working in the UK. And then obviously once you sign a professional contract, you can be paid anything unless the club have terms like Liverpool that they'll only pay a player a certain amount in their first year. But beyond that point, you can be a Alejandro Garnacho and at 19 be getting paid 40 grand a week or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, Taylor, that he's playing alongside your Alexander Isaks and your 6 figures a week kind of players, and he could have been on 14 grand a year.
Yeah, I mean, even the 52 or whatever it was feels like not a massive sum. I guess the idea would be he's still living at home and he probably has a lot of other expenses covered and there's other things going on there. But I don't know. Footballers coming from some impoverished backgrounds, that's not a huge amount of money for a player to be making. I guess Liverpool have their standards and their reasons. But the idea that, players are breaking through on £165 a week is, I think, what some clubs go for in their first year with academy players on scholarship. Obviously, they're getting other perks and stuff, but it's a pretty small amount. It's like MLS 1.0 amounts for some of these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the note of, wow, £52,000 for your first pro contract at Liverpool is not very much. Ryan, you mentioned it, but just to really highlight it, I know this is not Brad Guy's question, but the bonuses are almost certainly doing a ton, and I want to underscore a ton of heavy lifting there. I think we're probably missing the forest with the trees here. Rio's going to be making a lot more than £52,000 this year. I would imagine even if he barely steps on the field from this point forward. From what I've read, and even just thinking about this somewhat logically, those bonuses have to be stacked up and be fairly achievable, at least to bump that pay up a little bit. I mean, he's not going to be making Isak money. I think that's reasonable. but Liverpool will have almost certainly created some sort of heavily incentive-based structure. That's exactly what I would do in that situation. I mean, I think it makes sense to incentivize a young player to try and go and perform. We've looked at sort of what it is in England, that perspective. As far as I know in the U.S., to look at the professional soccer on the men's side in the United States, MLS and USL Academy players are not paid anything until they sign a pro deal. It is possible that I've missed something there, but that is, to the best of my knowledge, they don't make any money in that. That does something very specific for those players. It maintains their college eligibility. To use USL as an example, they have an entire USL Academy contract system that is built just so that they can play in professional games. Like Phoenix Rising have multiple players signed to USL Academy contracts. Many teams do in USL. And that allows them to play USL games, which is good for them, good for the club, good for everybody. And if they don't go on to have a long professional career and they decide they want to go to college, they still can. And they can go and play college soccer and do all that sort of stuff. If you get paid, that messes up a bunch of stuff there. So in the U.S., again, to my knowledge, those players on academy deals are not making anything until they sign an actual legit professional contract.
Yeah, that's certainly my understanding when I worked with the Charlotte FC Academy as well. They did get free Chipotle, though, Joe. I managed to get myself a free
good for
bowl
you, man.
once or twice on the
How
road.
much
Good
for free Chipotle makes up £52,000 a year?
Is that back
Well,
when
these
that was
days,
a-
Graham, not a lot.
I was going to say, is that back when that was a bonus versus a punishment?
Wow.
I mean, yeah,
Harsh.
it's I think it's amazing that like basically fast food is what is supplied for these players after their games. But then again, Chipotle is kind of healthy fast food, isn't it? So
I mean, at that age, you can eat whatever you want and get away with it. I long for
Cigarettes
those
and
days.
whiskey, baby.
Yeah,
yeah, and that should be noted for Gunamohar's contract. The Guinness and cigarettes breakfasts are also supplementary. This is
right,
Stanley
yeah.
Matthews law they have in the UK,
Right.
so he gets that included.
Stan Matt.
That's like when you
Stand
stay at a hotel in the UK, you can have a Continental, you can have a full English, you can have a Stanley Matthews. It's a whole thing.
That's right. You have to go outside for the Stanley Matthews these days, unfortunately. Yeah. Here we are. All right, Brad Guy, thank you very much for your question there. One more quick break. When we come back, we're talking about Joe Linton, and we're talking about the best ever promoted teams. Join us then. Total Soccer Show. Hey, welcome back to our Listener Questions episode, listener. We missed you for those couple of minutes, but we're glad you're back. Meredith Greer has come in with this question. Bright Guy also asked this exact same question in slightly different wording, funnily enough. Every time I watch Newcastle, I'm struck by how big of a transformation Joe Linton has undergone from a flop of a number 9 to a key number 8 for the team. Are there other memorable examples of a player changing position and changing the whole narrative around them? I think, Taylor, there are two players who stand out for me in this question. That would be Sir Gareth of Bale, going from flop fullback to world superstar left side, attacking winger, and Thierry Henry, who was very much a winger in his early days. Arsene Wenger saying, "Hey, give it a shot up front, son. See how it goes." Change
Sure
the game.
That's how he said it too, for sure. I think, so the Henry one is an interesting one. I will say that there are like so many examples of wingers turned strikers and vice versa. Like Henry is in there, Messi, RVP even. Like, so I think that one I sort of didn't really factor in, similar to fullbacks moving to center backs moving to fullbacks. That feels like a thing that happens pretty consistently when players are younger. But I did have Gareth Bale going from left back to left wing back to left winger to golf player. But there was like, Ryan, there was like the curse of Bale, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Or Graham, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where it was like basically every game he started, they lost and they were terrible?
Yes, I think when he was at Harry Redknapp's Tottenham,
Yeah.
he went, I think it was like 19 games he played, his first 19 games or so, he didn't get a win, and they were going to sell him to like Birmingham or something,
Yeah.
and then they decided to hold on to him, is the tale.
That's probably a pretty good choice. That's the curse of Bale. The curse of Aaron Ramsey, I think, was that every time he scored, somebody
That's
died.
a different one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So Bale was on my list. Javier Mascherano going from a central midfielder to a center back and being solid along the way. I think that prolonged his career and gave
great
us
coach.
kind of a new understanding of his role as a leader. And we mentioned him previously. Oh, no, I guess we didn't. Joe mentioned Mkhitaryan, but Andrea Pirlo is another one who went from a more attacking midfielder to deep-lying playmaker for Juve, wins 4 straight Serie A titles, prolongs his career, probably helps him get that move to New York, and ends up playing until later in life as well, or late 30s. And I think that is a positional change that suited him and made the team better and probably made him better because it gave him even more skill sets to add into his arsenal.
Nice. Very good. Joe, any noms?
Yeah, Pirlo is absolutely on my list, making that transition into midfield to the point where if we're talking about someone being definitional to how we think about a position, Pirlo maybe is like the best answer, where people will still refer to this deep-lying distributor where they play all these booming long balls and stuff out of that deep-lying midfield role as the Pirlo role, and I don't know that you get that with many other players. My whole list from top to bottom, some have already been mentioned. Bastian Schweinsteiger starting his career as a winger and then moving into midfield.
Weird.
Yeah, weird. How did that happen? Like, I've never seen the tape of him playing wide. Maybe this is just an internet myth, but I'm going to propagate it here.
He was kind of sorry, Joe. He was kind of like the German Beckham, right? That was sort of his reputation when he broke through. So not like a winger in the
Right.
like high and wide vertical sense, more in sort of like get crosses into the box. But yeah, still a weird transition for him.
Just like a fundamental misidentification of talent that eventually did correct itself. So I'm glad that worked out for him. Him shifting and becoming just an elite defensive player, especially through the middle of the base midfield. He's on my list. Pirlo already mentioned. Bale already mentioned. Sergio Ramos going from right back to center back. Just in that when I think of Ramos, I think of him as a center back and not as a right back, even though he did play as an outside back quite successfully for club and country. But really, there aren't as many of these as I thought, and that all of that led me to my ultimate answer. Someone who completely changed my perception of them when they made this move. Gyasi Zardes going from striker to right back. I mean, it just doesn't get more definitional than that. Maybe the most famous positional change of all time.
Wow. Graham?
Many of them have already been mentioned, but Ryan Giggs, we've mentioned him on a previous question in this show, but obviously was a dribbly winger for a lot of his career, and then laterally was this deep-lying pace setter who kind of took over from Scholes in the sort of Andrea Pirlo role for Manchester United. I didn't see that coming for Ryan Giggs at all, because his skill set was completely different for the first half of his career. Another slightly left field nomination, Roberto Firmino. So when he joins Hoffenheim, he is seen as like not quite a defensive midfielder. I wouldn't put that on him, but like it more like a central midfielder. He's seen as a box-to-box central midfielder for Hoffenheim when he joins, and then obviously even when he joins Liverpool, he's seen as he did kind of move up for closer to goal in the Bundesliga, but when he joins Liverpool, he's seen as an attacking midfielder, and then he becomes a number 9 and that sort of false 9 in that front line. So yeah, I think Firmino deserves a mention. And then Philip Lahm, another player we've mentioned for another question today, but is moved from right back into central midfield by Pep Guardiola. I remember that kind of blowing my mind at the time. It wasn't a role that I'd considered he would ever perform for a high-level team, and he was excellent at it, and Pep Guardiola called him the most intelligent player that he'd ever coached. So, yeah, that's where my mind went.
Wow, he's coached Kyle Walker as well. It's impressive.
Yes, yeah.
Very good. Meredith Greer, thank you very much indeed for that question. One final one for this episode from Diego447RR. Catchy name on our Discord is our question. All 3 newly promoted teams in the Premier League are looking like they can certainly compete this year. Thinking about across Europe, what are the greatest newly promoted seasons? Leicester don't count because that was the season after, says Diego4474RR. I was thinking Wolves, but can't think of any other from other countries as well. I think, Graham, this depends on whether we look at top flight, like greatest newly promoted seasons, or below as well. Because, for example, we could look at Wrexham going back to back to back, the first British team ever to do such a thing. That's very, very impressive on 2 counts for the newly promoted seasons for them. I would also count Luton going back to back Championship into the Premier League as well. Obviously, it didn't go so well for them in the Premier League, but to go from League One to the Premier League in 2 seasons, that is an incredible jump. The jump through the Championship, very, very. I'd argue that maybe is one of the best jumps, or one of the most impressive jumps that a team can do.
And Luton are doing their best to head in the other direction, I think, back down to League One now, right? They're in. Yeah, that's going to be fun
Not
for
great.
them. Yeah, I'd imagine there's quite a few. Not trying to take away from how remarkable those leaps are, but I think when you invest at a lower level, that can happen. The Scottish example of that is a team called Gretna, which is like a fever dream in Scottish football, where this rich businessman took over this amateur team. They went up 4 seasons in a row to the top division, and then went bust and disappeared almost as quickly as they'd got promoted. Wow. Yeah, it's a whole thing. They played in the Scottish Cup final.
Away somewhere else, did they, Graham?
Say that again, Ryan. Sorry.
Did they elope away somewhere else?
Yeah,
It's a joke because Gretna Green, listener, is known as the place where folks go. They go to elope if they are doing
It's a place that historically you would go and get married if people did not approve of the marriage. Don't ask me why, but it is. It's at the border of England and Scotland. But anyway, that was a fever dream in Scottish football. My mind immediately went to Kaiserslautern with this question. Who won the Bundesliga? And I say my mind went to that because those were years that I was just getting into football. And I remember people would go Kaiserslautern in FIFA and things like that, and Championship Manager, and that was because they were basically the Leicester City of that time. And so they won the Bundesliga title in the 97-98 season, and that was their first season after promotion. I could not find another example, certainly in like a big European league or like a notable Big Five league, couldn't find another example of that happening. Chievo in the early 2000s, they finished 5th in Serie A after coming up the season before. And another, actually no one even comes close to that. I was going to name Girona, but they finished I think 9th. Union Berlin are like 10th. Monza had a pretty good season after coming up, but yeah, newsflash, first season after promotion tends to be very difficult, and I could find nobody that had replicated what Kaiserslautern did in 1998.
Did Juve post Calciopoli possibly do something good? I can't recall. They did certainly shoot back up.
Did they? Yeah, they definitely did. But did they win the title in their first season? They might have done. Give me 2 seconds and I'll check for you.
All right, Graham's going to type things.
Did we mention Nottingham Forest already?
We didn't. But are you going to say that in 94-95 they finished 3rd after being promoted with Stan Collymore and Frank Clark in their ranks?
I wasn't. I'm glad you did. I was going to say that they won the first division in 1978 after being promoted the season before, but that is some ways away, and I do not remember it at all. I think there's one more in there that did the same in the 60s, like maybe Bristol, but I could be entirely wrong on that. And then, more recently, Como, promoted 2024, 10th in Serie A. That's not quite as awe-inspiring as Kaiserslautern. And then, to Die Good? Oh boy, Die Hard, Die Good. Their question, Diego. Wolves probably would be the other one more recently.
I'm not entirely sure what's happening, Joe, but I'm enjoying it.
I was trying to I was trying to read the name quickly, and I thought it was Die Good because I read a 4 as a D.
Taylor, it's pronounced bonus. It's pronounced bonus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm going to say mine now. Is that cool? I'm going to go. I think if we're looking at modern history in England specifically, Wolves is mentioned in the question. Wolves finishing 7th in the Premier League in that 18-19 season is the best modern finish from a newly promoted Premier League team. Best ever in the Premier League era, I have it down as Newcastle in 1994, Forest in 1995, who both finished 3rd after getting promoted. So Ryan, there's some more English stuff there for you specifically. I did that just for you. Looking outside of England, the Chicago Fire winning MLS Cup and the US Open Cup in their first ever season in 1998. This is cheating. It's cheating, isn't it? But I said it anyway. You know what? I'm not going to take it back. My last answer is Union San Felipe won the Chilean top flight in 1971, a year that I was very much alive and watching soccer in. That was their first ever season in the top flight. Yeah, I mean, I was binging the Chilean top tier, Graham. What do you want from me?
FIFA Plus back then.
FIFA Plus. And that was my gateway into the South Sudan Premier League, actually, by the way. Union San Felipe, they won the Chilean top flight in 1971, their first time ever being in the top flight. So they are the only Chilean team to win the second division and then the first division in back-to-back seasons. It is a crime that they were not mentioned earlier in this conversation. Justice for Union San Felipe.
Thank you for putting us straight there, Joe. That's
You're
great.
welcome.
Good
Happy
pull.
to do it.
Good pull. Yeah, there were 2. As far as I could tell in the Premier League, there were 2 promoted teams who finished 3rd in their first seasons in. That was Newcastle in 94 and Forest in 95. Yeah.
Where did Ryan, kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit? George Burley's Ipswich, did they not have? They were like 4th or 5th or something. That's like early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, they finished 6th or 7th and they got into Europe, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
First season up. That's a good shout.
They had a good first season up. But I googled Juve, they finished 3rd in their first season after Calciopoli coming up. So, not quite.
Okay, good enough. Very good.
Well, it's not good
Thank
enough
you very
in terms
much.
of you don't get a trophy for that, but sure, it was good.
Yeah, well, they got back to where they thought they were supposed to be. Diego 4474RR. Thank you very much. Rolls right off the tongue, that one, on our Discord. We appreciate you very much. We appreciate everybody who has sent a question in for this episode. If you'd like to do so, you can access our Discord at patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Lots of other Boonwas goodies on there as well. And you can visit totalsoccershow.com/questions if you'd like to send one. Otherwise, but for now, thank you very much for joining us. And Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much for your expertise as always, sir.
Thank you. My expertise in answering questions, if not pronouncing the name of the person who asked the question.
Hey, we've all got pronunciation difficulties today, or at least me and you. That's fine.
Good company. I'll take that company.
Yeah, indeed. Joe Lowry, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Graham Ruthven.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And thank you again, listener. Remember to join us in our bonus feed where we'll be talking about our Poop House Mount Rushmore and who belongs on it. But we'll be back on the main feed as well very shortly. But for now, bye!